Hi, I'm Minette Rushing, owner of Custom Cakes in Savannah, Georgia, and today I have the pleasure of being in Cary, North Carolina at the Swank Cake Design Sugar Art Studio, and I'm going to show you how we make our Parrot Tulips. The first thing we'll do is to make the bud, because the bud needs to dry for a couple of days before we start putting our flower together. So I've got a number 22 gauge wire, and use my needle nose pliers and put just a small hook in the end, and it's not closed, it's an open hook, but it's really tight. Okay. And then we'll need just a really small piece of yellow gum paste, and we're going to shape it into a cone. I started out with a piece that was about the size of a pea. So I'm going to dip my wire in the gum glue, and I'm going to wipe it off because you don't want a whole lot on. And put it in about maybe a half an inch. Put it in maybe about half the way. And then I'm just kind of bending it and twirling it around so it looks like something like a light bulb. I'm going to take my palette knife, hold my palette knife steady, and then turn with my left hand. Trim it so the end is nice and neat, and then just make sure it's attached really well to the wire. Now I'm going to come up and use my thumb and index finger and pinch from the top 3 equal pinches, something like little mouse ears, if mice had 3 ears. Okay, this is what our center will look like when we're finished with it. I'm going to put it in the styrofoam and just set it aside and let it dry. Now we're ready to make our petals. Okay, now we're going to make our petals, and here's what we'll need. We'll need gum paste, of course. We're going to use 24 gauge white wire. We have an egg, chocolate egg mold that we're going to use as a former for our tulip petals. And today we're going to use, to put the veins in the petals, we're going to use a First Impression tulip veiner. And we'll need the largest veiner on here is what we'll use. We need our ball tool, our cutter, a groove board, and our cell board. I always make our gum paste, and you can find our recipe on our website, but it's really good. We live in the South where it's warm and it's hot and it's humid, and it holds up really, really well. So I'm going to make a sausage and put it over the grooves. Roll it out. Okay, now I'm going to remove it from the groove board, the paste, and it's not wafer thin, but it's not real thick either, so it's sort of a nice medium consistency. I'm going to now put it over on our cutting board, and I like to use a cutting mat actually, so that I don't leave a lot of cuts in my cutting board, and it keeps my cutter sharp. Just lay it under some cellophane so it doesn't dry out. And we'll need 6 petals for each flower. All right, now that we have our petals cut out, let's go ahead and prepare them for the former. As you can see, the groove board has given us a nice groove in our petal, And that's where we're going to insert the wire. So I'm going to just dip the wire in our gum glue, and again, I'm just going to wipe it off. I like to hold the petal between my index finger and my thumb so that I can feel the wire as it goes in. And I'm only going to put it in maybe about a third of the way. Okay, the wire's in. And now I'm going to just soften the edges with my ball tool, half on, half off. I'm not really looking to curl the petal, just to soften the edges. So now we'll lay it in the former, or the veiner, sorry. Press. And we've got some really pretty veins in our tulip now. Kind of flex your veiner so you can peel the petal off rather than pulling it with the wire, because then it'll pop off. So now what we're going to do is to use the larger end of the ball tool, and I'm going to pull back, and that will curl the petal back and give it a really pretty shape. Now just pull it a little bit. You don't want to go all the way down the flower because then you end up losing your vein. So just pull it a little bit to give it some curl. And now it's ready for the former. So we'll put the larger end of the tulip into the larger end of the eggshell. Egg mold. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other 5 petals exactly the same way. Wipe off any excess gum glue. Hold the petal where the vein is between your index finger and your thumb so you can feel the wire go in. Insert the wire about a third of the way. With your ball tool on the soft side of the cell pad, half on, half off. Thin the edges. You're not really looking for any curl at this point. You're just looking to soften the edges. And then we're going to put it in the veiner. You really have to use some pressure. I'm going to peel it off. Okay. Put it back on the soft side of the cell pad. And just pull it back. You want to make sure that you're starting a little bit beyond the petal when you pull back. And you're just pulling back a little bit, just enough to cup it and give it some motion, some movement. And then we'll put the large end of the petal into the large end of the former. And they don't have to fit all the way into it, just as long as it's got that cupping motion. Before you vein your petal, it doesn't matter if the groove part is up or down, but the one thing you want to make sure of is that you're consistent with it. So if the first one you do is up, then do the rest of them up too. All right, here's the last one. And again, we've got the larger end of the flower going into the larger end of the former. And now we're going to let them dry at least overnight, one or 2 days, 2 days preferably, but if your room is dry enough and your flowers are dry enough, you can go ahead and use them the next day. So the petals and the center that we made 2 days ago are now nice and dry, and we're ready to assemble them. The first thing we need to do is to take our yellow center, and we're going to put this up here. I'm going to use lily stamens to make the stamens. You can make them, it's just, I find it's more cost efficient for me to buy them and put them on, rather than to spend the time to make them. And I'm going to bring them up so they're a little bit taller than the actual center. I'm going to use floral tape to tape them on, and I've actually cut the roll. I've cut in half width. That's what we're going to use because I don't want it to be too bulky as I assemble it. So to get it started, I'm going to pull the tape, which activates it and makes it sticky. Okay. Then I'm going to hold it at an angle, the tape at the angle, and then just twist it down. Okay, so I've got 2 of them on. I put 2 on at the time. And now I'm going to add another 2 the same way. Just kind of move them around a little bit. You want them to be about the same height. So again, I'm just going to pull the tape, start it around, hold the tape at an angle, and then just twist. Okay, just spread these out a little bit. And now we'll put the last 2 stamens on, and we're going to do it the same way. Just twist it as we go. And it's okay if a little bit of this white is showing because we're going to go back and cover it up again. So let's spread them out. So they're even around. Okay, and we want it to look something like this. So now we're ready to attach our petals to our center. And we'll do this one at a time. I'm going to, where the bottom of the petal and the wire meet, I'm just going to very gently bend it back. Just a little bit. And where the bottom of the center of the lily meets and the bottom of the petal meet, that's where we're going to start taping. And for this, I'm going to use the full width of the floral tape. I'm going to pull it, start it around, hold the tape at a diagonal, and just wire it down. Okay, so now we've got our first petal on. Our second petal, we'll do the same thing. Just very carefully bend it back a little bit. And the first 3 petals will go 1, 2, 3, just as if we were making a triangle. Again, we'll pull the wire, hold it at a diagonal and pull the tape and twist the wire. Okay. Now let's attach the third petal. And we'll do it the same way. Okay, now we have the inner set of petals put on, and now it's time to add the last row, the last 3. So again, we'll just bend it, and we're going to come back and put them, the last row, in between the petals, the first set of petals. And you're not dropping this down as you attach them. You still want them up close to the first row. Okay. And we'll straighten this out. These are really nice, pretty flowers. They come in a variety of colors. They can be very soft shades, almost like a Monet painting, or they can be very bright and vibrant. And they're nice and fluffy. And I like that they're on wires so that we can really manipulate them, kind of open them up. So now it's time to add the color. Because these are white, I'm just going to add a little bit of color to them. They do come in a white, but you also always see little extra colors, like some green or pinks or reds or purples in with the white too. So I'm going to put this aside. The colors that I'm going to be using are yellow and green and a really pretty magenta and a hot pink. I also, when I do my palettes, always have some cornstarch for a couple of reasons. One, the cornstarch allows me to clean my brush in between using the colors. It'll take the color out. It also will soften the pigments. So if you need a lighter yellow, you can mix a little bit of cornstarch in with it, and it will give you a lighter color. So for the center, I'm just going to kind of pull my petals back a little bit, open it up. And the coloring part is really where your creativity comes into play. So you can add as much color or as little color, whatever's really pretty to your eye. Okay. Add just a little bit of green to the underside. And again, it's just really what you think is pretty and what you like. I want my color to, I want my tulip to be predominantly white, but the little bit of color keeps it from looking so static. Really gives it a more natural feel. And each petal doesn't have to be colored exactly the same or even the same at all. That's the beauty of these flowers. They're so, the color sometimes can be very random on it, and that's what makes them, I think, really pretty and fun. And you can put them on the cake where they look like they're more closed, or you can open them up so they're a little fuller. And that's our Parrot Tulip. The last thing we need to do before we can use our flower is to set the color and give it a little bit of sheen. And the way we're going to do this is to pass it over some steam. So we've got the water boiling, a little bit of steam coming out. I'm going to open the flowers, the petals on the flower, and just very lightly give it a little bit of steam. It doesn't take much. This will keep the dust, petal dust from coming off, and gives it a nice sheen. So now what we're going to do is just stick it back in the styrofoam, let it set maybe for about 10 minutes or so, and then you can go back and manipulate your petals. I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial on the Parrot Tulip. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like to see more of my tutorials, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Savannah Custom Cakes. Thanks again for watching.